Hello, everyone, and welcome to the very first official TBD Talks. I'm Michael St. Gregory, producer for To Be Diced, alongside two regular players, cast members, KJ and Taylor. How you two doing?
I'm doing good. Wish we were playing today, but we gotta do. People gotta do what they gotta do. So
Yeah, lives come into play, and so we figured, okay, best thing we can do, since we've done a couple of these where we've just done filler and just chatted about things, why not make it like an additional thing in our lineup whenever we need to take a break from gaming or whatever it may be, or even if it's just to hang. So we decided to do this, and as you can see, if you want to ask us questions, you can do so in the chat or on our tag us in Twitter. Use the hashtag TBDQA, and we'll know that that's a question for us to ask and answer tonight. But we have like a semi-loose format, basically. And tonight we're just going to talk about storytelling in D&D. And I would love to hear both of your thoughts on what it is, first off, what you think makes great storytelling in the game. We'll start with KJ.
Boy, there's a lot of things that make good storytelling in D&D. I mean, for me in particular, good storytelling just comes from like good relationships between players and being able to just build off of each other and just yes and what's going on. I mean, we've had some pretty good moments just
absolutely.
Based on each other yes ending.
What about you, Taylor? What do you think makes for good storytelling?
Well, definitely like when it comes to the DM's end of things, like doing the proper balance of world building and NPCs. But like KJ said, I really think it's like if you guys click in reality, I feel like it's really easy to click in the fantasy world and kind of understand the give and take of characters and character development that really kind of pushes the story along.
For sure. Oh my! Don't know where that came from.
Don't die.
Continue.
Yeah, I swear these allergies are sneaking up on people.
That was just spit going down the wrong pipe. Oh,
Oof.
man. Anyway, wow. What a clip to use for highlights, huh? Man, jokes to death while talking about D&D. Oh, wow, that
Seems
really
you failed some sort of saving throw there, Mike.
Seriously, I just had like the wind knocked out. My body betrayed me. Why does my body betray me? We're supposed to work together. Speaking of working together, you brought up the whole yes and tactic, and I've been doing improv for over half my life now. I started when I was 15, and I'm 37 now. I've taught, I've performed, I've done a ton of stuff. And while yes and is like the fundamental thing, one thing that I love, and I got this actually from a seminar I saw from the creators of South Park, where they said, like, you can have a story where your story should be this happens, but if you have to follow it up with and then this happens, you really don't have a story. You just have a series of things happening. Mm-hmm. And I thought, oh, that's such a great like way to also use it in improv, because when we tell these things, we say, if such and such is happening in our world, therefore this means that this is also true. Therefore, if that's true, then it just follows one after another, where you're building a reality and you're all accepting what that reality is. You don't have to agree on whether you like it or not, on what the circumstances are, but you all have to agree that, yes, this is what's happening right now.
Life, I feel, is a lot like improv, though. Like, because, life is a whole huge game of improv, but I feel like This, like, when it comes to D&D, though, it's improv that we tend to enjoy instead of deciding if we want to, like, smack our coworker next to us or not.
We don't always enjoy it. There are certain moments where later we'll enjoy the beauty that was brought to the story, but trauma is never fun in the moment.
Yeah, in the moment it can be very tough.
Oh yeah, it's like
I personally think that when it comes to a story, when I do like a one shot or something, I kind of encourage things to go as off the rails as possible because it's just a one-time little short story, and
that's how you get a new
best,
campaign, Michael. That's how you get a new campaign.
but like that's also true. But like some of the best stuff and best memories can come out of a time where you really just like let the inhibitions go in regards to your decision making. And I felt like maybe now like I'm trying to evolve that to carry over into like when I play or when I'm DMing, to just kind of be like, yes, let whatever could happen be available to happen, so that if that's where the story is going to go, get on board.
I just love the unhinged chaos that is like storytelling with like 5 other people because
Yeah.
and another thing I really think about, especially from the storytelling aspect of D&D, is that everybody has a different perspective as to how they imagine these things happening. It's kind of like that phenomenon where you realize everyone else around you has like completely different lives and like times in their lives that stuff has happened. I kind of get like that sometimes in D&D when I realize that there's multiple ways that people are seeing this go down. It's like the interpretation in your head isn't the only one that is like going through your mind right now. I just find it crazy, especially when it comes to the characters' inner monologues.
Yeah. I like the idea of just not filtering,
Which has happened a lot with the groups that we play with a ton. Like, I mean, just take almost any of Tarzan's characters.
Oh God!
In my mind was Alfie. Just that character alone and the things that has already happened. It's a lot of us just making sometimes ridiculous and dumb decisions and committing to it 100%.
And I feel like sometimes those impulsive dumb decisions really sometimes contribute to the character's developments in ways.
Yeah.
Trying to think of like a few things. God, there's so many occurrences which stuff like this happens.
Well, even when like, because both of you, create outside of what we do here, and when just trying to put like there's storytelling in your cosplay videos that you do for TikTok as well, because you're taking the context of audio and then applying it. How do you feel like what when you're trying to tell a story in essentially 30 seconds or less? What is that challenge to you to get like the best out of it? What makes you decide like, oh, I know that this 1 or 2 lines can tell a really good story in 30 seconds?
At least with TikTok, I feel like for me at least, it's like try how you would imagine like putting in like a music video trying to tell a story in a matter of like 2-3 minutes. But like with this, it's like a super short music video. But like every time like I hear a song, and I'm sure KJ's probably the same way, like there's definitely certain images that hop in, and just you got to try to portray those and kind of set that situation in with the song. But I kind of think of it like a music video in my weird little head.
I'm similar, but not quite the same. I never think of it as like a music video, but I think of it in like in movies when characters have flashbacks where it's very short, small bits of information that inform you about the character. So I think of it that way because you have to be able to tell a lot of important details about this character in not very much time.
That's true. there's this notion of, people when they play this game, they think like they have to, like a lot of times when people play for the first time, they think like the mindset of, oh, it's a game, so I have to be good at it and I have to win. When
There's nothing good
that's
at
not-
D&D.
There is
No.
no winning D&D.
No,
You
no,
don't
no.
win D&D.
Wait,
When
Taylor,
you-
that's not correct. You win D&D when you make the DM facepalm for 5 minutes, or you successfully flirt with everybody's characters.
Then we've technically
That's-
won D&D like every session,
several
so
times over. Yes. I can count on both hands the amount of times just in the last game that I played with you all.
Smash.
How many times where I think, oh my
You love
god. just that, and it just trails. But yeah, the idea of play over perfection, where you've got so many games that focus on like perfect wins and higher stakes, but the way we play this game is it focuses so more intently on how well the game is told as opposed to how it's played, because the stats and everything that you have, they can be great, but again, an amazing storytelling tool are the very dice rolls that we have, and sometimes it feels like they're possessed.
It's like the fate of God.
It's crazy.
But I feel like the imperfectness of D&D is what makes it great, because like you can, like, I've seen a lot of DMs talk about how like their player will like describe out this super cool action that they're gonna do, and they're like, yeah, you're gonna have to make multiple rolls for this, and like it's just the dice are what do it, because you could do the coolest thing in the world, but it could also become the worst thing in the world, and you can end up with an error in your foot.
and there comes that separation also you have to figure out of there is that trope of like, well, it's what my character would do, but you have to really think about that sometimes, because you built something that's separate from yourself, and even though it may have like things that you relate to or can understand because they come from your own mind, so of course you're going to know where these things are coming from, to do like the disassociation and to watch your character essentially look at the options, it becomes trippy for a bit, because you forget.
It's also slipping into a different mindset too, definitely.
Like, for me playing Petrichor, I still struggle with the decision-making process because I am not a 9-year-old child.
No.
Clearly.
No, we know this.
You are the baby of the group, but
I am the baby. I'm not 9. So it's interesting it's just in that aspect alone of the age difference and how differently we think about things and we take in information, and trying to filter everything, me as a player who overthinks everything, into that of a child's mind who overthinks nothing.
Right.
Like, I feel kind of that way with Grundle. Like, Xanthi, it's pretty easy for me, because Xanthi is how, like, I would project the things that I would never do in real life. Like, I wouldn't immediately, like, try to absolutely just, like, pummel anybody who comes near the people I care about. I wouldn't do that, but Xanthi would. And Xanthi is kind of, like, my impulses of, like, all of the revenge I wish to seek in my little noggin. But, like, with Grundle, though, having to separate all of my logic from just like the mindset of like a 10-year-old that doesn't have that much common sense. Granted, Grendel isn't 10. Grendel's just really stupid. She can't read. And like, I have to be like, I myself would totally make this logical decision. But Grendel, no thoughts, only flowers. Like, I'm sitting here, I'm like, she would absolutely ignore this. Like, how dare this person be intimidated by a door? I'm a 7-foot-tall green lady. I can take care of a door. She didn't even think past what's behind the door.
Do we ever?
No, of course not.
No, I feel like every
you're not
D&D
supposed to
character
think.
is obsessed with doors. We're all horrified of doors. There's at least 5 checks that are made before we even touch the door.
That's because they're either trapped or they're mimics. That's why.
Not everything is a mimic.
It might as well be.
Might as well be. So I have this article from Forbes that is called Six Storytelling Lessons You Can Learn from Dungeons and Dragons. And I figured we could go through it and just kind of go like touch on the topics and see what we think about what our thoughts on it. The first rule, the first thing, lesson they have is to understand both the hero and the villain. Because the one thing that I've learned recently in storytelling, I'd say over the past couple of years, the protagonist is not always the hero, and the antagonist is not always the villain.
Oh, the morally gray area. I love it. I love the morally gray area.
So what do you think about like how you approach heroes and villains in regards to what you bring to a story, or what makes the more compelling aspects of it?
So in the Frontiers of Eberron, I played Delilah, who is in no means a hero.
Oh no.
Would never put her in that category. So it's interesting to play that kind of character where I'm not on either side, but if you had to put her on a side, it would probably be an anti-villain, if anything.
Yeah, I can see that, because like if they
giving Ghost Rider vibes.
Yeah. Because there's a lot of like vengeance and anger going on in there, and I feel like if anyone were to truly like cross you in the party, you wouldn't question, or Delilah would not question knocking him down a peg.
No,
yeah.
like,
and to be honest, I feel like that has the whole town's vibe, because you're not great people.
No.
There's not one of you that's like an amoral person, and even our paladin has secrets and stuff that, you know, I think maybe Isaac's characters are the most pure.
Yeah, I'm like,
yeah,
Edgar's closest a hero type character.
Like Ivara, I feel like she has
having to play in the mindset of having to play in the mindset of a character that's not the hero but not quite a villain is interesting, because obviously I'm the puzzle solver most of the time. I'm the note taker, so I pay attention to as many details as possible, even if they look insignificant. There's some things I have written in my notes I'll probably never need again, but they're there just in case.
If it's pointed out, it's usually important.
Even if it's like stuff that us as we say to each other as characters, even if it seems small, a little change in wording of things I take note of, because I'm thinking, like, Matt was yelling at me after he rewatched last session, and I was like, I have a plan, okay? Don't just go with me here. I have a plan. Because even if I'm giving information to someone, it's because I believe they need to have that information for me to get to the next step of whatever I'm trying to do.
Right. You know, it's funny with your detailed note-taking, and I realized something about myself too, is that going back to the agreeing and the yes and improvisation part of it, if I slip up and that becomes a detail, I realized, wait,
I'll know.
If that there was something there too, because I legitimately slipped up my words as Brother Mason entering that scene, saying that he was looking for the sheriff, and I'm in my head, I'm going, just stop it, sheriff. And what I ended up saying was the old sheriff, and you caught it, and then I was like, fuck. I was like, I didn't mean to do that, but
it's a thing.
You know what? Let's hold on to that. Maybe that might be something. So, like, slip-ups and mistakes can go like all sorts of ways. I've made decisions with storytelling in games that I've run before where in the heat of the moment, it's something that surprises me. Like, you know how sometimes like writers can like disassociate from it and just let the world build on its own.
Yeah.
Or the characters make their decisions, even though you're the god of that world. like if I see A plus B can result in C, okay, cool. But what happens if I skipped C and just went to the next big point, like in that moment? And sometimes it's resulted in some really fun, memorable moments that can be hilarious, heartbreaking, exciting, shocking. Not every story I like to do ends on a cliffhanger, but I do like it.
But like,
You and Matt both.
oh god, all the time, all the
We gotta
time.
keep you coming back.
It's true.
We're gonna be coming back regardless.
Well, not
Look
just
at it.
you,
What do you
obviously.
expect?
It's like we have to inject this into our veins.
Through an IV consistently.
Yeah, but like when you were talking about like not quite good and not quite evil characters, honestly, Frontiers of Eberron, especially since KJ brought it up, and especially since you also brought it up, Michael, everybody in Eberron is very morally gray, and I feel like it's because everyone in Eberron are survivors after a great war,
Yeah.
and
It
everyone is like
why
having
it is my favorite world. I truly believe it is the best of the official D&D campaign settings. I feel like it is the best because it is the most in depth in like it's got noir, it's got like Game of Thrones treachery, and it's got geopolitical aspects to it, and then high fantasy, and you can throw in like the etherpunk style of magic and technology that they have, and you could tell all these just amazing stories in like the tiniest parts of the world or even a globe hopping journey. And Keith Baker, if you're watching at all, anytime, somehow, I don't know, thank you. Thank you for gifting me with a world that I have been obsessed with since 2018.
We've only seen a fraction of this man's excitement, and it's immense.
Yeah.
And it's just a fraction.
It's like a kid on Christmas, like every session. He like this man goes
I
all out.
Did so much
Theme
on this world,
music.
and I just started like I'm reading every Wikipedia article. I'm reading every like adventure module that you can have, and what I can take from where and pull from this. And I love that. And what I love is that you all did to a degree your due diligence and your homework in what I supplied to you, because you could have easily just made something very simple, but no, you guys like were asking me questions like, well, what does this house have to do, like where's the history of this, how is this religion tied into, like what happened during the war, like do they know what's going on, how long did it last, who was involved? And I'm like, yes. Yes.
My job worked.
Since when have we made simple characters ever?
I love it.
An
I love it.
undead bounty hunter.
Yeah.
And an automaton now human cleric child.
Right.
There's nothing simple about either of them, especially with the details in them.
I run a half elf that runs a brothel, and then a variant human sorceress with serious emotional problems that spent most of her life in a lab and suffers psychotic breaks.
Yeah. Well, that makes me interested in, what do you feel when it comes to like the world building aspect of a story? How much is too much, and when do you know when to like stop? Because I know that in my other games that I've played, and I've used a lot of our games as practice to just be able to step back and only provide lore when needed. And because to me, I could talk about everything about it and just dump it all on you at once, but I know that doesn't make the finding out part fun anymore if you just know it. So where do you feel is like, what's the balance in regards to finding out things about the world and already knowing them?
I think it's good to have a little bit of each. I love, like, me as a player, I love learning new things, especially when I get to keep secrets, which is why I love playing Delilah, because I have so many secrets, and it's my favorite thing.
That's true.
But just like going into the session with a little bit of knowledge that your character already would have about things they've already experienced, and then learning more things as you get to know the party that's around you and go adventuring and doing things throughout the campaign. And then whether it be through research or just big events that happen as the campaign progresses, just little bits here and there, especially if you get to keep secrets. Like, that's one of my favorite things in playing D&D is getting secrets. Because I don't know what it is, but just like being one of the only people to know a specific thing,
It's a reward.
Everyone else on
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Like you have this information that no one else has, and they don't to learn it unless I give it to them, which is just
That's true.
Something else.
That actually segues well back to tip number 2 they give. Friends teach you how to tell a better story. And I think that this group is certainly a testament to tell people show people how we tell stories based on just how we ended up all knowing each other, because we were playing before we started streaming. And I think that is such a important part of why this has turned out the way it has, because we became accustomed to each other's storytelling styles and limits, and knowing like which way to push if there was an idea, when to hold back, knowing like boundaries, but also just getting to know each other as people.
That's something I feel like, especially like when it comes to bringing in new characters and new environments, is learning not only your character but the other characters around it, because not only do you have to kind of put up like and set up how you feel like your character would react with other individuals, but also how they react with these individuals they're going to be stuck with for a very long time. Right. And the evolution that comes from that, because just like in life, everybody in your life, whether it be friends, enemies, anything in between, they always change your character of your own personal self. And I feel it's always the same way in D&D. It's your characters definitely have a chance to evolve with each other, and when they do, it can be some incredible outcomes or very chaotic outcomes. It depends on situation.
I think one of the most important things that I found a lot of the people we play with in the group that we play with are very good at is you're not automatically friends when you start. I don't think like any of our characters actually started becoming comfortable with each other until like, I dare say 10 sessions in.
Yeah.
I will say this, everyone automatically attached themselves to Petrichor, but that was something I intended to happen on purpose.
Right.
That was the whole goal of the character.
I feel like Petrichor is like the glue is like the peanut butter that holds the sandwich together. Like it's oddly sweet. It's very questionable sometimes in sandwiches with very salty things, but then like you eat it and you're like, this is pleasant.
It
really. I've seen in so many places where they just immediately go into being friends, but I found in Frontiers of Eberron, in Dimensional Dial, like Eberron's, like specifically, none of us have any close ties to each other. None of us.
No, you just all have at least passed each other in town.
We're like howdy neighbor.
None of us are friends. We're acquaintances, and some of us work more closely with each other than with others, but none of us are friends.
Oh, no. If anything, you're reluctant friends. You're allies.
And I feel like with Dimensional Dial, it's definitely like the whole evolution of that group has been an absolute freaking roller coaster ride, because everybody in that group has some sort of fucked up mental problem. And like having to see these characters very... Well, okay, okay, the thing is that Barrow, I am pretty sure, has some fucked up shit in his little guy's noggin.
It's always the quiet ones, right?
Anything.
Always the quiet ones.
Well, like the monks are also able to quiet their mind, so like
the blind one.
That's one of the biggest reasons why I'm glad Petrichor is the character I'm playing, because if there's anyone to get any like past experiences and like things that happened to Barrow, it would be Petrichor, because they're learning and experiencing things for the first time ever. as a human, feeling things, emotions, textures, everything. And so as they're having to learn things, that's one of the things I've been looking forward to being able to do since I was talking to Matt about allowing Petrichor to become human, is I'm going to start trying to use them learning things as a way to pull backstory and experience bits from each of the other characters, because we haven't really done that. We haven't really done any like conversational talk about like past experiences and things. I mean, we've learned a lot about Xanthi, but that's just because of places we've been and shit that's come up.
But there's still stuff about Xanthi that they don't know either. Like they knew that she's was kept in a concrete room most of her life, but they don't really know the extent of what the shit she's gone through even before the labs.
None of us, we don't really know anything in depth about any of these characters yet, and we're a decent way into this game.
But I also feel like a lot of our characters like have their reason to keep their secrets. Like Xanthi, for her main part, is paranoid that like if people find out about like the shit that she's done, it's gonna completely change their outlook on her. Because like she doesn't want to do that kind of shit. It just kind of happened. But like her being with this ragtag group of people though has completely changed everything. And like the evolution of Xanthi has been very interesting, especially with the child in the apocalypse.
So we have our first question from Deanna Troy, a frequent watcher. Thank you, Deanna, for submitting your question. When did you all get interested in D&D? So a little bit of our own playing origin story.
Taylor's the shorter answer.
Should we do rock, paper, scissors to decide who goes first?
Three-way is not good. That never
We're going to do it anyway. Ready? Rock, paper, scissors, shoot. Okay, so now the two of you have to go.
All right, you ready? Rock, paper, scissors, shoot.
Oh,
rock, paper, scissors, shoot.
All right, Taylor, you're first.
All right. Well, mine's very short. I literally started D&D because of this group. Isaac, who is he plays Livitar and Hokosh and Edgar. A lot of characters. He's currently playing Crow in our Dimensional Dial campaign. He messaged me on TikTok and he was like, "Hey, I'm starting a D&D group. Do you want to join?" I was like, "I've never played D&D before. I've always wanted to play, but I will probably ask a lot of stupid questions." He's like, "No, it's okay." And I started. It's been like I think 7 months now since we've like started this group officially.
Yeah, it's been a minute.
It's been almost a year, but like ever since I started playing, I have been hooked. I had been role playing for like 10 plus years, like writing my own characters and stories since I was like very young, and now this is like a choose your own adventure. But it's so fantastic. But yeah, I started out because of TikTok, so I have TikTok to thank for my new hyper focus and obsession.
Dimensional Dial's only been going for 5 months, you guys.
Yeah, I know.
That's it.
I know.
Longer than that.
It feels like it's been so long.
Oh, what?
When did you start playing, KJ?
At this point, geez, 4 years.
God damn.
I got into it at first because some of my family members brought it up and were starting a campaign. And I had never heard of it before, but I was curious. So my very first character, I think, was a half-elf druid, which I realize now with what I know, I played a druid completely incorrectly.
There was no wrong way to play a class.
Oh, I beg to differ on that account.
Mechanics incorrectly, there is.
Listen, if Laura Bailey can play a cleric on an entire campaign and not heal anyone
I'm talking like I didn't know
virtually the
that
entire campaign, then anyone can play a character whatever way they want.
I'm talking as the young version of myself that I was at the time.
Well.
I didn't know anything. Like, I know now druids can choose their spell list every morning and change what they have because they have access to everything. I didn't know that. I stuck with the same spells the entire campaign clear to level 20.
Oh, God. See, like
It-
playing a cleric, I'm
the-
still getting used to that as well. Like having to like learn new classes is absolutely insane. Like I'm about to play a druid in a new campaign that I'm about to do, and I'm horrified because I've never played a druid. So
But yeah, I started
Spellcasting
playing.
classes are certainly a
Parents
learning
do.
curve if you've not done them before and you're used to just weapons and brute force. But yeah, I think it's going to be interesting. I feel like on our game on Sunday, Taylor, your spellcasting is going to be tested quite a bit. So
what?
Yeah,
I'll just say that.
I'm 100%. I saw that coming a long time ago.
Yeah. Dungeon
I will
crawls
say-
are good for unique uses of magic.
I like to try to find unique uses to do anything really. But whether it's making
For me
myself
though,
talk-
I started in 2012. Wish I had played sooner. And I learned off of just a couple of games I was playing with the 3rd edition, and then when 5th edition came out, all of my friends we started a game together. I was on and off for that game for a bit, and then we've been playing all the time since then. And yeah, it's just once I like really like figured out that, oh, this is just one long improv scene, and the GM is like the director in a way. I was like, oh, and then I started writing more than I had ever written before in my life. I was learning how to draw maps just because I wanted to like learn, and I was reading books, which was not a thing for me ever. But I was like absorbing more fantasy and all the kind of stories I loved, before, broadening my mind. And then, of course, the dice hoarding, which, oh boy.
Taylor is starting her little horde.
I have
slowly.
started.
Start down the dark path. Forever will it dominate your
I got my second set of dice. I'm already looking at a third for Grendel currently, mainly because I have some big plans for Grendel that I have talked to the DM about. And
Talk to me when you got a suitcase full of dice.
I will say though, I feel like when it comes to D&D, when people find out how easy it is to actually play, because I feel like outside of the D&D world, some people think D&D is like this very complex thing, and in a way it is, but it's kind of like when you go to a math class and you learn the formulas.
Yeah.
It's really easy to like once you get the hang of it, it is so easy to just fall
find
into
the
it.
hacks too. You find like the way to work around things so that your mind can actually understand stuff. So this next rule or next lesson is probably one of my favorites. Let your story fail. I think that a fail in a story is just as much as it can like suck in the moment. You can see how like sometimes
That one's best.
Let me tell you, some of the best storytelling moments we have had have come from natural ones on our rolls where we have failed something.
Yes.
And those have been some of the best moments and some of my favorite ones, because you're not really truly human and you can't grow unless you fail. And that's one of my favorite things about this game is you have to roll dice. There has to be an element of chance in what you do, because that's what life is. There's chance in everything. So just it's frustrating because you're like, I don't want to fail this, and then it rolls in that one and you throw your dice across the room, but then it makes for some really epic moments, and I love it.
I think my first nat one was again shooting myself in the foot with an arrow. On the ice, fighting those dire wolves. Xanthi had to make her first Constitution saving throw because Xanthi had been drinking like a motherfucker. And so I failed that Constitution saving throw. I then had to roll with disadvantage, and I rolled a nat one. And instead of hitting the wolf, I had to roll the dice to see who I hit randomly, and it happened to be myself, thank the Lord. But yeah, I shot myself in the foot.
Was the trade of the crystal and the crossbow bolt, was that also in that one?
With the crit, I don't remember. All I remember is instead of getting hit points taken away, I was half the movement speed.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But like, no, nat ones are what make this game. I think it's the most hilarious out of everything because it's the most unpredictable shit. Because there are so many times where like you're like, I'm gonna do something cool, and then you trip over your own feet, and then it's game over.
Like the Apocalypse episode where we were rolling nat ones left and right.
Dude,
Almost all of the nat ones I rolled were for saves, and most of those saves were internal. It wasn't even anything that was happening by mats. It was my own mechanic that I'd given myself that I was rolling nat ones on.
That's how it was in the castle with Xanthi. It's just she kept failing her psychotic breaks, and she was also sober at this time, and that's how Clucky got put on fire.
So there's also the notion of trust your gut. And I know that we all have that idea of like, oh, if only I could have, maybe should I have this, that, like you go back and forth. But a lot of these things become instinctual moments for where, you know, like you can always have an idea of where you'd like your story to go, but there's no way to ever be able to predict what actually is going to happen. But you can stick to the instinctual choice that you would have in that moment. Because if you're putting yourself in the character scenario, then you're going to react the way that you believe that they would instantly react in something.
And I feel that's a big thing, especially with conversations and events that happen between different characters, because it's not just about like the player and the DM. It is also about how the other players interact with each other. Like the amount of times that like Clucky and Lovitar have like had like very, very bad odds with each other. They still kind of are. And like seeing how like certain characters are, because like they have their own morals and ways to look at things. Like Lovitar is very edgelordy, Clucky's very loyal chicken, honorable chicken. But like seeing that clash between the characters is one of my favorite things.
Like this was something that I picked up on and has now transferred into my consciousness and something that I want to do as a player. But like in the moment when Clucky spoke with Lovitar and said, I'm done. If you get yourself in trouble, I'm not pulling you out of it again. And that conversation happened. Me as Petrichor, while I was in that mindset, immediately said, I'm going to do everything possible to repair this relationship if it's the last thing I do.
It's also, I don't know if you noticed, one of the main reasons why Xanthi went and apologized to Crow is because, and one, it's because she's trying to set a good example for Petrichor, but she also knows how toxic Lovitar and Xanthi's like relationship can be. Like they are constantly button heads like over the stupidest shit. Like and I I feel like Xanthi wanting to apologize because she doesn't want to expose Petrichor to any more, especially like now that they can actually kind of feel the emotions that are going on. Like when you got family members fighting with each other, it's never good for the child in the household.
So much trauma. As we're getting to this last point, by the way, for all those who stuck around, thanks for watching. We appreciate it. We will, once again, I have been cracking the whip on Tarzan to verify the YouTube channel so we can finally put the videos up there as well. I talked to it today and he was like, oh, right, I have to do that. I'm like, yeah.
You'll have to remind me tomorrow morning.
Yeah, and then we'll be able to multi-stream on stuff. Speak of the devil and he shall arrive. We were just making fun of you.
Tarzan! The wonderful Clucky McCluckerson has appeared.
This is actually good because then I can transition talking point duties over to one of you if you would like, because I'd like to talk about this last one, and then I will have to be on my way, but I will pass the reins on to you to be able to still chat and talk, of course. Glad you got your food that you can obnoxiously eat into the microphone. Remember, I can do that. You can't, but I will be able to. So the last one is share the storyteller seat. Now, I know that. We all know that it's myself and Matt who do the streaming on Wednesdays and Sundays. We also have games that we play on our Discord, and we go through, different. Isaac has run games. Uh, Victor ran like really the first full game that we actually started together, at least all of us here, and Mr. Claybeard Studio in the who his question was, "What's up, nerds?" We're good.
Dog?
We're glad you're here, Chris.
We also have been asked what our favorite campaign is so far.
I mean, I'm biased because, honestly, I love that world, and I think it is one of the most fun times I've had watching people build the story together. But I will say, I like outside of stuff we've done here, I think my favorite campaign has been one that I've been involved in the last couple of years, because very similar to what KJ's character Petrichor has been going through, I've been playing this Warforged who is slowly realizing and learning what it is to be human to a degree. And I related a lot of it to, I'm a big Star Trek fan, and Data is one of my favorite characters
Yes.
of all time.
Oh, I love Data so much.
Like, I was like, I want that journey, and I was just like, I was pulling so much of like what that character represented, and then just, you put your own spin on it, of course, but I was like, okay, he was built to support through magical technical means, so innately he will empathize, or at least try to understand what it means to match the emotion of the person who's going through stuff. Unfortunately, what that was taken with, I would do a lot of like, well, he probably would do it just literally because he does not understand what the scope is. So when other people were angry, he would just match them and be like, it's kind of like that. I don't know what we're yelling about.
Oh,
like
God.
that sort of idea.
Brick.
It
Good old
totally
Brick.
reminds me of like me as a kid having to like learn social cues.
Oh yeah. And I've done that for like, I think I still go through my life where I'm just like, ooh, I gotta read the room real quick.
Am I reading the room
like,
right?
Terminator scan of the entire room and just figure out what's going on here.
Love it.
But I will leave the floor to you all. Thanks again, everybody. But
Before
real
you
quick, though,
go.
just what?
Before you go, a question we
Okay.
got asked on TikTok was whether we were looking for players or DMs for.
Well, I was
future
actually going to
social-
lead into that, so thank you.
Well, I'm doing it for you because I'm
Yes.
the one that does social media.
Thunder
I-
Thunder strikes again.
We did get a question offline or on Twitter rather, if we're going to be accepting DMs and players to expand the games. And while we have a pretty big server right now as it is on Discord, and we have a lot of people who we play games with and we change up and we test things, and we still want to be able to give them a chance to first, whoever you don't see regularly playing on our streams here, because some are just learning to play the game at the same time, as well as getting like comfortable being on camera and even on Discord. So we want to give them that ability to kind of use the space to be able to feel comfortable when they want to be on here. But my channel, Omniversal Entertainment, is currently accepting GMs to produce their for us to produce their one-shot live stream across 4 channels at the same time. So if you would like to do that, check out you can go to Twitch or YouTube or wherever it is. It's all at Omniversal ENT. And that's where you can find everything. It's the same across all the platforms. We have a great team. We have a great production group. We have a lot of great creative people. And we are making sure that it is something where it's like we have all of these tools and we want to be able to give them to you to access them so that we can give you the production that you feel your game deserves. Kind of like a community theater of tabletop games. So
love
if
that
you're
so
interested
much.
in that, please feel free to hit me up. that is my screen name on the Tickety Talks if you want to just message on there. But I am now going to leave this forum for the rest of you. So thank you all, and I will see everyone else on Sunday.
Thank
Have a
you,
great
Michael.
night.
You're
Hasta
amazing.
luego. All right.
Isn't he
Cheerio and all
wonderful?
that.
Continue on the question that was asked before Michael left. What is each of our favorite campaigns?
Oh God, it's so biased. Like I love Dimensional Dial. It is easily one of my favorites, but it will probably still be tied with Legends Born, which is the dwarven campaign that I'm a part of, and that was like one of my first very epic roleplay experiences. And I am very attached to Astrid as a character. But I will say I think Dimensional Dial tops it just a little bit because I am so emotionally invested in Xanthi and the whole entire party.
For me, it also has to be Dimensional Dial. It would be Crimson Moon if we got to play more often, because I was much more invested in that character faster, but we just don't get to play them as often anymore due to scheduling conflicts and all. But like,
I miss playing Breck.
If we got to play it more often, Fontaine would be my favorite character to play.
Breck, I think, is interesting for me because Breck was my first actual D&D character I ever made. They were randomized, and like I'm sitting here, I'm like, what gender am I going to make this character? I'm like, I'm just going to make them androgynous as fuck, and that's what I am doing.
Accurate.
Nobody knows Breck's real gender. And they
has yet to be, as our acronym stands, TBD. To be determined.
That's valid. You play all of the time. You play
Me?
so much. Yeah.
Yeah, you play. I feel like you play more than we do.
Like even outside of just the 2 that we stream here, you're playing in-person games too.
Yeah, I do. I have an in-person campaign. What is it? Into the Witchlight, something like Witchlight. I know there's an actual name for it, but it's something Witchlight, and that's my in-person campaign where I play a barbarian gladiator named Samir. He's a lot of fun. Some of you have encountered him already, but he's a huge showman type fighter. He loves the arena, and he is 7'4", 285 fucking pounds of solid muscle and fiery red mane. And,
smash! It's giving like Mufasa and Kovu vibes, and I love it.
He's a lot of fun to play.
Taylor's screaming right now.
But that's not my favorite campaign so far. Out of everything I've played so far, Dimensional Dial's definitely top tier. But I have to give it to my main campaign, which was founded on TikTok. We don't actually have an official name for it for the campaign because it's like a blend of several different campaigns all into one. As of right now, we're doing Into the Underdark. I mean, technically, since we're in the Underdark, and my main character Aiden was killed off in that series.
No, not Aiden.
That one.
Yeah, that one has emotional investment is tied with Dimensional Dial. Like, Aiden is one of my characters that I created back when I was 13 through creative writing, and after getting into D&D for the first time last year, I knew I wanted to bring this character to life in D&D, but funny story, the translation that I had for his name, which the original meaning was supposed to be the Shadow Hunter of the Underdark, over time, it means jack shit. The way I spelled it was supposed to mean that, but it doesn't mean jack shit now. So I had to change it, and so I had the character, or I had the original concept of the character be the father of my current character. So there's a lot of history to this character and investment. So it's why it's probably my most favorite campaign. But Clucky is right fucking up there, man. I'm telling you, as simplistic of a character as he is so fucking fun because of how simple he is.
I think the thing that makes Dimensional Dial such a high one up on all of our lists is because we came in with these crazy ass character concepts, and I was like, all right, let's see what we can do with that.
Mm.
So until we get more questions, I loved
how we joked about the concept of Clucky originally beforehand, before I even created him. It was just strictly I just started bringing it up about how funny would it be to be a giant barbarian chicken that sends spectral chickens out at you as a perk, and then I saw the Dimensional Dial as an opportunity to flesh out that character for reals, and I couldn't be more happier with the character, honestly. Like, he's
never regretted it since.
No, I mean,
Sorry, continue.
I was just saying, his introduction to the party was fucking
Great. It was awesome.
It was phenomenal. It was a great segue too. Like, he's just off on his own, fucking hassling fucking vendors and shit. Next thing you know, a party of 4 comes up. Hey, what's going on? Leave the chicken alone.
Leave the chicken boy alone.
That was before Petrichor too, which
But you were talking about, like, with Aiden, how you, like, wrote Aiden when you were 13. Xanthi, who's based off of Artemis, one of my main OCs and characters I've been writing for my book. She's based off of, like I said, based off of Artemis, who I started writing when I was, like, 15, 16. So, like being able to actually take that character and put them into, like, this kind of, especially this found family situation, because I feel like if they put Xanthi in any other, like, scenario, Xanthi would probably pull, like, a lot more of a Lovitar sort of situation. And
I have pushed you into a more maternal situation.
Like, seriously, You brought a child into the apocalypse.
You love me. It's fine. Okay, so until we get more questions from chat, I looked some up, which I love doing these kind of questions because it really makes us start thinking about our characters in more than just the storytelling aspects that we have and, like, alternate versions, especially with going through the different dimensions. We've already been told there's another Xanthi out there somewhere. Probably dead now because that dimension is gone.
The thing is, I don't know. Like, if something's brought up in D&D, I feel like it's gonna show up later. Like, I don't know why.
For sure.
Listen.
Like, we have been introduced.
Listen. The charcoal guy stuck to the wall said that Xanthi had the capabilities of creating a dimensional door, essentially. Who's to say that Xanthi of that dimension wasn't successful in creating a dimensional door? And
I know.
We don't know. So on that tangent, that's the question. If your character was not an adventurer, what livelihood would they lead?
Oh God. Xanthi would probably be pit fighting, because that is, again, what I have that component of that original character. After they escape from the labs, they would pretty much pit fight for a living. So Xanthi would probably be scrapping in an alleyway somewhere, or if she never escaped the labs, she would have probably been sold off as some sort of weapon of war, and be subjected to being a military pet.
So Clucky. So, you guys read the letter, or read the letter that Clucky had on his neck. The farmer that he was with had passed on, and so on. So, technically, he would still be with the farmer, probably living just a basic-ass life as a chicken on a farm, but is capable of helping out the farmer and protect him.
I'm just imagining Clucky going, like, around and flapping his wings and, like, herding sheep. He's just, like, sprinting through the field and just, like, herding the sheep.
Don't give me any more ideas for drawing things. I don't need that in my life.
I need a picture of Clucky frantically flapping his wings and just, like, running in a full sprint. I need that. I need that. Like, right meow. I needed that yesterday.
For Petrichor, it's a little difficult because it depends. Are we talking, like, if we're talking before any of the, like, job was given out to go on this adventure, Petrichor would just be a rusted can on the side of a road, forgotten, and part of the side of a path in an abandoned building until possibly getting found again if the doctor returned back to the laboratory and getting restored and just going back to what they were. If we're talking Petrichor as they are now, I think it's hard because there's no like key qualities or skills that Petrichor has yet. They don't have any connections to anyone. It was just the doctor, and now the doctor's gone. I think it would be a cool concept if they've been taking little bits of things from each party member as we've been going on this. I think they would love to like settle down on a farm to go back to Clucky's roots and borrow living kind of a quiet traveling life and just being raised in a quiet atmosphere.
My heart. Oh, my heart.
That's a good. I like it. Clucky can teach you everything you need to know about farming. Just kidding. He doesn't know shit about farming.
It would be a great way to be sort of a reform for Xanthi of just not being induced in trauma and so much aggressive energy all the time. Something more calm and collected where she can process everything she's been through and work through it.
See, here's the thing though about Xanthi and farms. Xanthi No, I'm not kidding. A little bit of a spoiler warning. Xanthi grew up on a pig farm. Her mother was technically sold off to a pig farmer because her family was very poor. And her mom was, after being brutally unalived by her father, was then fed to the pigs. And yeah, so she might have an issue with farms, especially if there's piggies on the farm. But I feel like Xanthi, though, especially if she knew the people that she was around, it would be a set of like peace for her in a way, and it probably in a way for her to be able to almost retell her story that she never got to really choose. So instead of like a child on a farm being brutally abused and then sold off somewhere, Xanthi would have the opportunity to make sure that a child is given a proper home and a loving environment, something she never had. And Xanthi is that kind of person that, like, even though she is as deeply traumatized as she is, she's not one that wants to continue the cycle, even if she feels like she might be doomed to repeat it, which is one of her biggest fears. And her main thing is wanting to break the cycle that she was forced into. So it could be a good thing. It could be a bit of adjusting, but we'll see.
It's just what ifs. Okay, we got a question from chat by Deanna Troy, who, again, watches us all the time. How tall is Clucky?
That's a good question. Let's pull it up.
I think he's like 6 something.
I thought he was like
6'2".
7'2". He's 6'2".
No. Samir is 7'4", but Clucky's 6'2". I put age 12, but that's not right because chickens don't. Chickens don't live that long.
He's not a normal.
I'm gonna say, I would say he's only 3. Technically, I would say Clucky's only 3 because they mature by the age of 3, and yeah, we'll say 3.
I love how Clucky is technically the toddler of the group and claims himself to be the leader.
Wait, no. If you think about it, by original time of being brought to existence, Petrichor is still the youngest. They're only technically 2 years old. They, right now, are a 9-year-old child, but they've only been alive for just over 2 years.
Oh, God, I didn't think about that. Oh, my God!
This is the answer.
That's fine. That's funny. I love
it. So the youngest of the groups are like literally the most mentally stable, next to the blind monk.
Okay, so what battle in the campaign so far has been the most memorable for you, and then which one for your character?
Ooh. Probably for me. Sorry, go ahead, Tarzan.
Oh, I was just gonna say the fourth dimension where we almost fucking died. And Clucky nearly died twice.
I was about to say my personal favorite, like as a player, was the fish fight. I loved everything that transpired from that. From like getting to use one of my Molotov cocktails to Petrichor and I fishing for this giant fish that is eating Clucky. There were a lot of big brain moments in that fight, and I really, really liked that.
Yeah, no, the temple fight was pretty fucking gnarly because that's actually pushed us. That pushed my ability to play Clucky effectively to my full extent. Like I could not do anything successfully because of the fact that it was magic damage, and I couldn't have that. Like it was bad.
That fight was the first time Petrichor actually took damage.
Yeah.
So for Petrichor, that fight is most memorable because it was the first time they really took any damage, and it was heavy damage. Like I was the lowest on hit points out of the entire party after that session. For me,
were you though? Were you though?
I was watching. I was lower than you were. Thank you very much. You went
well
down.
After you healed me, yeah.
But for me, as a
but you didn't go down.
Player, the most memorable fight was the direwolves and the slow.
Oh yes, that was
There were so many intuitive things that we did as players trying to like
the
set up the trap.
Yeah, that was
used water to make it slick. There was the tripwire. There was the bonfire. There was so much that we had done.
Yeah, as a player. Yeah, that's probably one of my most favorites because especially given the fact that was my first my first combat experience with Clucky, and I got to suplex a direwolf into another direwolf, and it was fucking epic. And these motherfuckers just could not stand toe to toe with Clucky.
I think as a character, though, the fight that Xanthi probably that really stuck with her would be the fight in the drug dealing ring, because that was when she was having her most psychotic breaks, and she was also realizing that she was losing her damn mind because she not only attacked Clucky, but she swung at Lovitar, and Xanthi actively tried to leave the party last time because she was scared that she was going to hurt her other party members.
Goodbye, Deanna.
No worries, Deanna. Thank you for stopping in. Yeah, no, that was that dimension was hell, man. That was literal hell.
Dude, it was so bad. And like Xanthi was a fucking mess in that dimension. Because on top of the heat, because she hates heat, because the drugs that she was given caused like burning sensations. So she literally is going through physical withdrawals, dealing with physical like PTSD of like remembering everything, and then just the psychotic breaks on top of it. She was a mess. Like honestly, Xanthi should have probably been put in a straitjacket and dragged through that whole entire dimension on a chain. Just
okay, so another question, and I'm gonna twist what it says here. Here it says if your character wasn't the class they are, what would they be? But I'm gonna give it to for Petrichor, what do you guys think Petrichor's class would be if they weren't a cleric paladin?
That's a very interesting question. I could kind of see Druid maybe, but the thing like with them now as a child, not exactly with them as like a robot. As a robot though,
Because I know what my answer would be, but I want to see what your guys' answer is.
It's really.
I mean, you play Petrichor as a cleric so solid that I could honestly not see it any other way.
Maybe a wizard.
Ooh.
More magic focused, yeah.
Yeah, but also not just that, but like taking and accumulating copious amounts of information, that sort of thing. I feel like wizard could definitely fall into Petrichor's attention to detail, in my personal opinion.
Yeah, that's a valid.
Just not as many spell slots.
With the backstory and what I know about Petrichor, if they weren't a cleric paladin, I would lay them as an artificer.
I could see that, yeah.
Partially
create stuff.
because the doctor is an artificer, and that's what makes the most sense if I wasn't a paladin, is to take after the skill set and tools that were from who was teaching me.
And
Right.
Petrichor also tinkers with a lot of stuff as well. So honestly, that would make a lot of sense.
Valid.
We're gonna go around the table.
I could totally see like being like a fighter if he was anything else, either like a fighter or I think Clucky could make an interesting blood hunter, in my personal opinion.
I actually think if Clucky wasn't a barbarian, he'd be a ranger.
Ooh, yeah, definitely. Definitely.
Like, here's my reasoning.
He claims to be the best hunter. Like, it makes
He's a
sense.
hunter and a scavenger for the party, and he's very protective, and he flies. So if nothing else, he'd make a very good long-range fighter.
And he's his own animal companion. It makes perfect sense.
Clucky as a ranger. I couldn't.
Now he needs to be in one of those Smokey the Bear outfits and just be like, bark, 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 bark.
We're gonna have to do a what if series on that. That's gonna be.
So, Tarzan, what do you think Clucky would be if he wasn't a barbarian?
What would Clucky be?
Fighter's too easy of an answer.
Yeah. Let me pull up the class list real quick, because I honestly cannot remember what. I can't think of anything other than fighter right now. What did I sign with? Twitch.
I really still like Ranger, though. I think Ranger is very
Ranger,
fitting.
like, fits given context of what he does naturally.
And the reason I said Blood Hunter is because I feel like it would just add a bit of edginess to Clucky. And I don't know, I feel like he would have like really epic like lines whenever he does like a blood sacrifice thing.
See,
I don't know.
Here's the thing, though. Here's the thing. Clucky doesn't have the capability to comprehend magic. So I mean,
yeah.
I mean, one, you need to have intelligence in order to cast magic, anyways, or charisma for that matter, which Clucky has neither. Let's see. We got Barbarian Bard. Ooh, you know what? I think Clucky would be a bard.
Oh my god!
Okay.
I think. No, that's not. So instead of devoting all of his strength into, or all of his abilities into strength, he would have focused more on his musical aspect. Because I mean, he does. You guys don't know this, but he does sing.
Oh, that is adorable.
He started singing on the road last session, remember?
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah.
We know
That's
how he sings.
yeah. He's been getting a little more musical as of late, especially with now that he's taken on a hobby of creating hats.
Oh my god, I so fucking love that.
Best and worst thing that's ever come up in game.
Clucky making hats is the most adorable and disturbing thing I have ever witnessed.
out of dead animal parts.
Not just that, he's skinning dead animal heads. Like you were
He's
scalping animal heads and making them into hats.
What were you saying, KJ?
It's organic.
Oh yeah. I mean, I'm giving it purpose instead of just being dead. Or Clucky's giving it purpose, not me.
I think if Xanthe wasn't a sorcerer, I think she'd be a warlock.
Warlock. I would give her a barbarian or a blood hunter. Blood hunter's too easy. Let's see.
In a way, I could see a blood hunt, like Xanthe being a blood hunter, just because of like self-mutilation, self-sacrifice thing, because that is...
No, fuck that. Xanthe would be a rogue. 100%. 100% rogue.
Oh,
100%.
Yeah.
If she, because you and fucking Lovitar have this fucking this camaraderie going that honestly, I am surprised that you're not a rogue now.
Yeah. Okay.
R.I.P. Lovitar.
100% gonna make us do it for all the rest of the characters, even though their players aren't here, because I think it's to keep going. I think Borrow would be a bard.
I could definitely see that. Borrow being a bard. But also that's just I feel like that's totally a Victor thing. Like
But
I feel like he wouldn't be a singing bard. He'd be a bard that would say like really terrible blind jokes.
I think he'd be like a College of Eloquence bard, just because the things he says, he's wise as hell.
Oh yeah.
And he's got
Borrow does
he's
slam poetry.
got wisdom. He's got so much stuff. He's so good with his words because he's experienced in travel.
Borrow.
I think he would be a bard.
I could see that. Lovitar, blood hunter.
Oh yeah. That dude just likes dipping into, sticking his hand in things that he doesn't need to be, that he doesn't have any business in doing. Like, you know.
Now,
getting it
out with Scree, I honestly think a druid is really interesting because literally Scree could burrow into their heads and then like literally do animal shape and like turn into a bear and just blow them up. And I feel like that is a very Scree thing that they would do.
I think Scree would be a barbarian.
I can see that little raging barbarian mouse.
There's already so much aggression and anger and feistiness there. I could see Scree being a barbarian.
Could Clucky also technically be a monk in a way?
I mean, that's
that.
I mean, that's just cookie cutter. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's one of the simple answers.
Yeah. If anything, I would say Clucky would probably end up being a paladin, more than likely.
That's
Paladin or bard.
how loyal he is.
Oh, yeah, he's got a very strong sense of devotion. So, I mean, that would play very well into being a paladin for sure.
I will say if Xanthi wasn't a rogue or a warlock, she probably might actually be an artificer just with her background in the labs. Because she is also she likes making things that go boom. And she kind of has like and I think it's also mainly because I have like a weird understanding of like chemical compounds and shit like that. But also on top of that, like Xanthi, she's in survival mode all the time, and like especially in the laboratory, having to make things out of nothing is like one of the ways she survived.
Would you say she's in survival mode because there's a literal child in the apocalypse?
I think so. Maybe just a little bit.
The brain chemistry.
Last character, Crow. So I know in campaign, it's like on his title card it says soldier. I take that to mean he's a fighter class of some kind. So what would he be if he wasn't that?
I feel Ranger would be like the easiest answer, but Artificer I think could definitely be something.
Yeah, since he likes to make his own bullets, yeah.
Mm-hmm. I don't know.
I think that would be the simple.
He's not the fit. Crow isn't fantasy. He is like us. So it's kind of.
He's real life human.
Yeah, he's
and
real life.
And he wants to be like us.
Oh my god! What? So if Crow goes into, oh my god! I swear to God, if Crow like travels into the next dimension with us and Leviatar shows her ass up, I'm gonna be.
Petrichor, like one of the main goals that I have written down in my notes that Matt has is find a way to kill Leviatar. That's a legitimate thing I have written down. She will die by my hands.
Yeah, but I feel like if Leviatar died, then Lovitar would die.
He's already dying. What are you talking about?
R.I.P.
Yeah. R.I.P. Lovitar. I will never do that again, I promise.
Does your character regret any particular choices they or the party have made so far?
Oh, God.
Xanthi, you want to take the lead on that one?
Oh, my God. Everything. Like, her first regret was joining this team and, like, to start with, because first, and, like, especially when Petrichor came into the picture, she's just like, damn it, I like these people. Damn it, I might accidentally kill these people. And... like, But I think the biggest regret for Xanthi is her losing her shit. And granted, it's not something she can really control, but it still does not take back from the fact that like she regrets the fact that her brain just works like that, and it's really shitty. And so I think her biggest regret, especially she kind of could care less about like swinging at Lovitar, but like especially if it was like Borrow or something, she'd probably be a little bit more distraught. But it's the fact that she set Clucky on fire and hurt him, and like she adores Clucky. She knows Clucky means no harm to anybody except for whoever he decides to split in half with his battle axe. And like Clucky has been really good to Xanthi, despite the fact that she's a little bit of a loose fucking nut. And Xanthi still feels so bad about that when it comes to what happened with Clucky. And yeah.
That scenario, the way I played it, actually, the way I play Clucky is animals tend to have some basic understanding of when somebody's experiencing psychological trauma or something like that. So they tend to be a little more understanding, usually, more so than they would be with any other human. And I'm giving that type of sense to Clucky, where he understands there's something wrong with Xanthi, and that's beyond her control, and that's why he's more tolerant of the behaviors that she's exhibited. Whereas Lovitar has been consistently defiant, consistently putting the party at risk. This is behavior that he's witnessed since this party was formed with Clucky. So, to Clucky, Lovitar's actions are not excusable, even though there was a revelation that he hasn't remembered some of his past actions. But Clucky hasn't experienced a shift in behavior from Lovitar, aside from when we got to the third dimension and he started dancing on the brambles and whatnot.
That is such an iconic scene.
Yeah.
Emotional support burb.
So he understands Xanthi, but he does not understand Lovitar's behavior. So that's why he's been lenient with how with being attacked by Xanthi.
She seriously does not mean to. Like she doesn't want to hurt people, because like even though she's had a shit ton of bad stuff happen to her, she ain't that kind of person that wants to impose that kind of pain on somebody else. She didn't even want to kill off the person technically in a different dimension, but like she's like, I'm not going to repeat that cycle even with you. And also Petrichor and Clucky kind of took care of the rest of it. But like Xanthi, she is a good person who was put in very shitty circumstances, and she wishes she could change that because she wants to be a better person because of it. But it's her constant struggle with her with her own mental state, as well as her addiction on top of that. Because technically the cycle did kind of repeat, because her father was a huge alcoholic and now she's an alcoholic.
Mm-hmm.
But she doesn't go beating on kids, so
Man.
I mean, technically, yeah. Technically.
Xanthi hasn't beaten up a child?
Xanthi has not touched Petrichor.
No, Xanthi has not.
Technically, Clucky.
But I actually feel, and again, when it comes to Clucky being a chicken, she was able to kind of snap out of it a little bit, because like Clucky is such a weird like phenomenon as being a large 6'2" chicken. But I feel like with Petrichor, if she were to actually try and attack Petrichor, something again, brain chemistry would probably hit before that, and she would hopefully stop herself beforehand, depending on the roll though. Like if the roll's like, if it was like a straight like nat 1, then Xanthi's gonna have a lot of regrets, and she will it'll be bad. But
yeah, no.
I'm trying to think of a moment that Petrichor would regret. There's a lot of what Petrichor does is through concern for others. They don't really think about themselves very much, or at least they didn't used to. Now a lot of the focus is internal because they're experiencing a lot of stuff. But man, there's so much that's happened.
Like, is there anything like in their past that we don't know about that Petrichor like remembers that they regret or anything like that? Or
Oh, give me just a second.
But wait, there's more.
But wait, there's more.
Let's see. Oh, does it work? Please tell me it works.
What works? What are you doing?
Sound alerts.
What?
Sound alerts for the stream.
Oh. I don't know. Boy.
What sound alerts have you made so far?
We only have the. What are you saying?
What do you
I think I made that one actually. Oh. I know what the answer to this question is.
Oh, ho, ho.
And I can't actually say this one because it was briefly brought up in game, but nobody really caught on to it. In the well where there was that lake where we had the whole trauma with Lovitar deal, when he first went down in that fight and Petrichor came in and saw him down and thought he was dead, when we got out of combat and he got back up, I said, as Petrichor, this can't be happening again. And nobody caught it.
Oh my god.
Because
What Petrichor, what have you done?
they have, in the past, I mean, they were built to help keep people alive when things were to go bad. Obviously, that would lead to situations where there's possibility someone goes down. And there's been times in their past, at least once, where someone went down and Petrichor couldn't bring them back.
Oh my god. None of us are allowed to die in this campaign, you guys. None of us are allowed to die.
Think I try to stay as close to you motherfuckers as I can.
Unless we go into a castle with a drug deal.
Like, a couple sessions ago, Barrow made Petrichor promise that if anything were to go wrong, they were to go with Clucky and get out of this dimension. They said they would promise. That shit's not happening. Are you serious? No.
Wait till Clucky gets that skill expert fee. You ain't stopping him.
Dude, I cannot wait till I can get my draconic wings, cause like, man, we gotta be flying little flying fuck faces through the universe.
Just say, in the event that things go terribly and party members are down and Clucky or anyone tries to pull Petrichor from the situation, all hell is breaking loose. All hell.
Fucking, I'm beelining for that skill expert fee, and then no matter what Isaac rolls or anybody else rolls, I don't give a shit. You are not breaking my grip. Plus fucking 14 strength check.
Yeah, I will say.
You can't cast magic if I restrain you.
Activating a whole person spell and then casting something on myself, I could get out of that shit so fast.
Yeah, you gotta be able to cast magic without using somatic components.
Xanthe might be picking up some interesting spells that will probably, because like she now is going to be thinking a lot about like what if something does happen, because she will straight up like Petrichor flung over back like a sack of potatoes and fucking booking it. Like Xanthe will go into full mama bear mode.
That's something that's so like I can't help but feel like these people really care about this character I've made, but at the same time I like am yelling like, no, you can't do that. You don't understand. I'm the only one that can help these people in this situation. If you take me out of this situation, they're gone for good. And like me as a player, I'm like, why would you do that? And then I remember this is a toddler
In the apocalypse.
in the apocalypse.
Yeah, no. Clucky's lives a very simplistic lifestyle, so he doesn't really have much regrets. But there is a little snippet that you guys got a slight preview into.
Broke my heart, Tarzan. I was keeping it during those scenes. I was keeping it together.
I was ugly
You
crying
see
that
me
whole
start-
scene.
You see me start crying as soon as you started describing Clucky talking. That's when I started crying.
And like the fact that Xanthi caught all of that too, like what that broke Xanthi's fucking heart is like seeing Clucky. Like you don't really see Clucky being vulnerable, like hardly ever, because Clucky again, a lot of stuff kind of tends to just roll off of his back. But that scene in particular absolutely broke me because Xanthi got like a very deep understanding as to how much this party, including the large sentient chicken, cares about little Petrichor.
And I understand a little more about the reason behind that reaction because he lost the farmer, but I also know, due to conversations me and Tarzan had a while ago, there's a very strong bond between Clucky and Petrichor that isn't like Clucky has with anybody else.
Yeah. So the way I explained it to KJ was Clucky viewed Petrichor as a hatchling, essentially. It's a very, very paternal type of relationship that he holds, but he doesn't. There's a language barrier and also a lifestyle barrier between the two. So he doesn't necessarily view himself as a father figure. He just views himself as a guardian over this hatchling who's no longer in a metal shell, which confused him during that scene. And he didn't really understand or could process in that moment that Petrichor no longer needed a metal shell. But once he was able to calm down and understand what was going on, that this is actually Petrichor, he's like, he started to process it as they finally broke out of their shell and can, survive outside of it. So that's when he was trying to put the shell or the armor pieces back on to Petrichor to see if it still fit or not.
I think the funny thing was, Taylor, during that scene, you would ask, "Where's the grain?" Like a solid 2 minutes before you asked that question, I asked Matt, "Where's the grain that Petrichor has?" And he's like, "It would be by the table near where the shell is laying." So before you even asked the question, it was going through my mind. I'm like, how could Petrichor make Lucky understand that it's still them? And that was the first thing I thought of, because it's just something that they always did.
Yeah, that was a hard scene, and I could feel myself tearing up at moments during that part. But that was a hard scene for him. Just the processing of the transformation for a person with such a simplistic mind. It's not easy for somebody like that to experience something that jarring, but he got past it. He's starting to have some level of understanding, which I'm happy about.
With Xanthi in that scene, I think, and like I had mentioned before, like upon like Petrichor and seeing them as a child now, Xanthi, like I said, Xanthi's childhood was absolutely terrible, and I think her biggest fear is she remembered how horrifying it was being a child for her. And how scary it is, like experiencing scary things as a child, and like knowing that when you're going to be getting a crash course in this shit at like 8 years old. And Xanthi, I think, to a point, sees a lot of her fears that she is still getting over for herself and her trauma that she went through. She is so terrified that Petrichor is going to go through like something very similar or the same thing. And so Xanthi is wanting to do everything she can to give this child a somewhat normalcy compared to like her childhood. And it's again why Xanthi is definitely kind of taking a different course with things to a certain point. It's definitely going to be a process with her addiction issues.
Yeah.
So along the same line of things that have built our characters, like just along the journey with each other, does your character have any noticeable scars? And if so, what are their stories?
Shoulder
Xanthi-
burn.
I'm talking before game, like any scars they had before the group met up.
You know Xanthi has those scars all along her eyes and her face. She also has a giant scar down the center of her chest and around her neck and her wrists. Neck and wrists were mainly from restraints that she was constantly struggling with. The large scar in her chest due to the extreme experimentation. She was subject to dissection and a lot of very they wanted to pretty much see how the organs would react to certain drugs, magical drugs, etc. And then the ones around her eyes come from a particular punishment that was given in the labs that if she acted out or if she pretty much tried to fight what was going on, she was technically completely blinded for upwards of a few days until she was healed and would go right back into it. Pretty much was a way for her to stay subservient. And that's how she got her scars around her eyes from surgical instruments. And she has a brand mark on her back, but nobody's seen that yet. So
the most noticeable one for Petrichor, especially in human form, is the one that resembled that chip in their faceplate. I wanted to make sure that became something that was part of the character after the human transformation, because the story behind that, when you guys found them, they were covered and riddled in rust and moss and all sorts of stuff due to being left out in the weather for 2 weeks, but also they've been through some stuff.
Yeah.
But the one on the chin is the most notable as during the building of the dial, there was the doctor would make the sigils and everything that Petrichor would inscribe on the dial, but Petrichor was the one doing the inscription because they had the most steady hand. So any blasts and after effects of getting something wrong happened to Petrichor. And so one of the biggest moments there was some kind of retaliation from the magic they were trying to inscribe, and they got hit, and they'd never been able to fix that chip in their faceplate. It was almost as if something was keeping them from repairing it.
Linked to a core memory, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Clucky, you can't really see his scars given that the feathers grew back over top of where the scars are, but he has bondage scars on both his wrists and his ankles from when he was a child on the farm. He was captured by a group of goblins. It didn't play out in the last encounter we had with goblins, but Clucky was terrified in that moment. He was facing his biggest fear during that encounter with the goblins and the bugbear.
Oh my god. If Xanthi ever sees those scars, that's gonna be a whole different fucking ball game.
He was when he was a child, he was captured by goblins, and a group of adventurers helped the farmer rescue Clucky from these goblins because they were preparing to cook him. Essentially, they were going to eat him. And
Aww, poor baby.
A group of adventurers, right? A group of adventurers came across the farmer and helped him because he wasn't at his fullest potential. He wasn't capable of doing it on his own because of how old he was. But he got help and they rescued Clucky. But ever since then, he's been terrified of goblins. And in that moment, during that dimension, when he realized what he was up against, he was completely fucking petrified, but he was more concerned about the safety of his friends than he was about his own fear. So he got past his fear for that in that moment. But if he was ever to be captured, if he was ever to be faced alone with goblins, it would be a train wreck.
Oh my god, now my heart's breaking even more for the sentient chicken.
So this is an obvious question for Tarzan's answer due to the nature of Clucky, but what animal best represents your character?
A bloodhound, man. Clucky. 100%.
Xanthi gives me like very much black cat vibes. Like
Give me attention now. Now leave me alone.
Yeah, no, like very much black cat vibe. Like she's kind of bitchy. Her personality is a bit off the wire. It's like a black cat mixed with like orange cat energy.
100% Petrichor is a golden retriever puppy, specifically.
Oh yeah. Yeah, Clucky. If he was a dog, Clucky would be probably a Saint Bernard or a Great Dane.
Is it weird of me to think that Bara would be a capybara? Like very middle ground. Nobody really fucks with him because like he doesn't really fuck with anybody. I don't know why. Baro gives strong capybara vibes. Capybara.
I don't know. I was gonna say, if he was a little more deranged, he reminds me of Rafiki from Lion King.
The baboon? Dude, baboons in real life, though, are brutal. Nothing like... Actually, it kind of does give Baro vibes, though, because when they get maternal, like, they will rip you apart.
I'm just specifically that monkey, because he said some really, like, wise and, like, eye-opening things, but at the same time...
It doesn't matter. It is in the past.
I definitely see that. Lovitar definitely gives snake vibes.
Chihuahua.
Yeah.
Oh my god!
Chihuahua.
Oh my god, yes. Little
difficult to catch when they get loose, and a major pain in the ass.
Oh my god.
Obvious answer for crow, which would be just a crow, but I think he'd be more of a peregrine falcon.
I don't know. I feel like crow gives off serious husky vibes. Like either husky or Rottweiler vibes, because I also feel like crow never shuts up, so like the husky in that is kind of a bit there. But I also kind of get Rottweiler vibes because like he could look like a big doofus, or he could also look like he could destroy you.
I'm just saying I don't think he would fit husky because huskies are just drama queens. So far, Crow talks a lot, but he's not really drama oriented unless he's messing with Kit. But he does have a very... I don't even know.
I mean, it's still early. It's still early to tell because we haven't had too much experience with him. But
okay.
I would give him personally, as of right now, maybe Pitbull vibes.
I could see that. Yeah, Pitbull.
Just once he locks into something, he's taking it out. But otherwise, he's very dopey and lovable.
Like I feel like if we're gonna like do dog comparisons, like I don't know, I feel like if Clucky were a certain kind of dog, he'd be like Cane Corso.
I could see that.
Next
or
question. Which other player character does your character find themselves having the most common, like most things in common with?
Oh god, that's a hard one.
For Petrichor, it's Lovitar.
Yeah.
I would
say Clucky gravitates towards Baro a lot.
So Xanthi, in a way, like definitely gravitates to Petrichor, but I also feel like when it comes to her trauma, her and Lovitar kind of are on like they have a weird understanding about like taking on like high amounts of pain and trauma, but it's like it's almost like kind of that song where it's just like my bruises are still black and blue while yours seem completely healed in a way. It's they both handle their trauma very differently, but they both were faced against like various amounts of torture. And as much as I think Xanthi kind of relates to Petrichor in a childlike sense as to what she wished she like could have had, Lovitar I think is more of the reality that she is forced to live.
Yeah, no.
'Cause-
It's Clucky. Yeah, he'd probably gravitate towards Faro the most, given that they do tend to live similar lifestyles as each other. But monks typically tend to lead a very least materialistic lifestyle. Clucky doesn't really care about the material world, so he's just, I would say, like a monk in a sense, but strong monk.
Material girl.
Like there's the surface reasons as to why Petrichor has the most in common with Lovitar, being they both have been pulled apart and put back together again. But there's a lot of, especially now that Petrichor has feelings and has to work through those, there's a lot of similar internal struggles between the two, that some of which haven't even been brought up in game yet, that I'm super hyped to come up. And you're
wait till Lovitar gets his eyes on the new form. Oh my god.
Oh my god, I cannot wait to see how that goes down.
If nothing else, if Isaac really isn't going to be using Lovitar past this dimension, he has to see Petrichor in the form they're in now.
I feel it might bring him a sense of peace in a way, like, or in a way, a sense of maybe like how like, with Xanthi, like a sense of fear. I don't know.
I'm just saying, I am so glad that Lovitar did not see the dismantled body of Petrichor.
Everybody was almost dead in that whole entire establishment from the time we woke up. Like, all of us are just, oh, here it goes.
I'm just saying, it would be the vision Loviatar showed to him many, many sessions ago brought into reality.
Yeah.
Out of context.
You know Matt planned that 100%.
Oh, God, I knew. Oh, God, that broke me. That whole scene broke me.
Matt didn't plan it. I did.
Bastard.
Everything that happened in that session, I mean, there's amazing story arc and wording that Matt puts in due to me not knowing everything. But most of what happened and the way you found Petrichor was entirely my doing.
I see you.
There's a reason Matt says if you think he brings trauma, just wait. Just wait.
Oh, I got stuff planned for you guys as well for Clucky.
Can't wait to learn backstory bits and trauma of our characters. Borrowed. We know nothing about that man. We know nothing about him.
Shit's probably not gonna play out till the final fucking dimension. Probably.
I swear.
Like, I feel like y'all pretty much have a good, like, yep, okay, like, has Xanthi ever straight up said, like, where she came from yet? Or, like, she knows, like, yeah.
We know that she came from a lab and came from a farm at some point, but we have no idea where.
We got a preview of it in the fourth dimension.
Yes,
yeah.
Like, the interesting thing is, Petrichor is an open book. Like, they're very easy to read and they'll tell you just about anything about themselves. But you guys don't really know much about them. Like, the more I've thought about it, like, there's a lot you know about Petrichor via their mannerisms and the way they act and, like, things they've told you. But there's so much that just hasn't been said.
Yeah. Yeah, I've got plans to help fix some of that, but I gotta talk to Matt about that.
I have some very, very big plans for Xanthi, and God, it's going to be a process, and I'm going to go ahead and apologize to all of you.
I am here for it.
I'm
going to dish out. I'm here for anything you guys have.
Like Xanthi, let's just say Xanthi might end up putting herself through a rehabilitation program, and she's gonna hate every minute of it.
Oh, you know, Petrichor is going to be right there helping.
Oh God.
What do you expect? What do you expect?
Literally, Xanthi has legitimately told Lovitar, if she loses her shit, you kill her. Like, she's completely fine with that. And like, I think the reason she told like Lovitar that instead of Clucky or someone like Clucky, because Clucky I don't think would kill Xanthi. Lovitar though, he's straight up said, he's like, I'll cut your fucking heart out. And she's just like, seems like old times. Let's go.
Sounds like a plan.
So, on a less traumatic note, what do you think is your character's best trait?
Ooh, that's really hard.
That's easy for me.
You go first. You go first.
What's the picking?
Clucky's best trait is the fact that he's the giant loyal dog. He's always gonna stand by his friends. He views everybody in the party as like his little hatchlings that he needs to protect, and more so Petrichor of any. But he's just a giant, lovable, fucking loyal guardian. He doesn't have any other aspirations other than just to provide and protect. That's it. I love that guy.
and we love Clucky.
Love Clucky. Clucky's great.
Xanthi, I think her best quality, like she doesn't think she has a lot of good qualities just because like she's commercialized. Her brain's been commercialized to think that she is made to be a monster, and that's pretty much the gist of it. But I think her like best like quality would probably be her morality. Again, despite the fact of all the horrible things that have happened to her, she doesn't wish that same thing upon anyone else.
How ironic that for someone who does things that are very immoral at times, their best trait is their morality.
Like the thing is that like, but again, she does fucked up shit mainly because like it's more of a jerk reaction, it's a survival reaction, but at the same time, she does very much look and regret and like look back at her actions to try and see, well, yeah, I fucked up. It's again why she tried to leave the party when she attacked Lovitar. She doesn't want to continue the cycle, even though like her brain is still very much fucked in that. I feel like if she just had the want for revenge though, she would probably end up like Lovitar or much worse. And I don't really know if she has any other good qualities aside from that, because she's just pretty much an alcoholic trying to like cope with all of her brain chemicals.
Love it.
Regardless of what you might think that it would be easy for me to pick one for Petrichor, it's not.
There's a lot of like good quality things about Petrichor.
There's a lot of good qualities about Petrichor, but we're talking about traits. And traits are things that are learned or just inherent in your being. Petrichor's brand new to being a human.
Yeah.
And a lot of things are changing. Like, some of the things they would just do because that's what they were made to do, they second guess now.
It's imagination coming into play with logic, and as well as like imagination.
If I had to pick one of anything, I think their best trait is the fact that they can see the good in anyone, which is also their biggest flaw. Because there's so many times that I've made decisions because Petrichor tries to look for the good in others, which with the U.S. government,
that gives Xanthi so much fucking stress.
Yeah,
because that's another thing she stresses about. Because like as a kid, you're naive, and she knew even as a kid when she was naive and all the horrible stuff that was happening to her, even if it was in the guise of we want to help. It's even like back in the drug dealer ring when they were asking questions about Petrichor, Xanthi immediately was thinking, I swear, if these guys try to fucking steal a robot because they can give them fucking water, I'm gonna fucking kill somebody. And like she knew for a fact that like Petrichor just kind of answering the question. She's like, shut up, shut up.
Like they're innocent, but they're also very mature because they've still experienced things and they learn things a lot quicker and like can process things quicker. Not so much anymore, but like
Is mature the term or is it traumatized?
no, not traumatized, mature. Like it's interesting because there's this dynamic where when they were a robot, yes, there was a little bit of that childlike wonder and aspect to them, but they still processed and dealt with anything like an adult would. Now they're a child. Things have changed.
A
Ugh.
literal child.
A literal child in the apocalypse.
Roll for tantrum.
So earlier, I totally broke when I read this question because obviously a literal child in the apocalypse. But what stereotypical group role does your character play in the party?
Alcoholic aunt. Alcoholic aunt.
Clearly, the child.
Slapstick comedy.
The comic relief.
You're the
Comic
Muppet of
relief.
the situation.
Obviously, Barrow has the dad position.
Oh, easily.
Whether he wants it or not, that's what he has.
And Crow / Lovitar is just unhinged uncle that probably went to prison.
True. He's the one uncle that like mom and dad don't really want to influence the kids, but he always comes by with really cool stuff to give them.
Yeah. Yeah.
100%.
No, but again, definitely gives the uncle who's been to prison a few times vibes.
Mm-hmm.
Accurate.
This is kind of along the same lines, but not at the same time. What person does your like? Nope, that is how it said. What person does your character admire most?
Like, in their story?
Just people they've met. Who do they admire the most? Obviously, Petrichor, super easy. Well, that's not actually. It's a tie between Dr. Deanna and Barrow. Because they've known the Doctor for longer, and that's the only person they had any exposure to. But Barrow has done so much for Petrichor and is basically their dad. Like, they're still trying to figure that out, but like, it's this. I can't pick one over the other because they've both been such huge, like, parts of them.
Yeah.
I want to say Barrow for Xanthi as well, but I also, in a weird way, I kind of want to say Xanthi kind of really looks up to Clucky in a way because Clucky's kind of the only one that has treated Xanthi like a normal human being aside from Petrichor, and like doesn't like Lovitar like is like like just like how Xanthi and Lovitar is like, you're a threat. No, you're a threat, you dumbass, and like it's like, you're a dumbass. No, you're a dumbass. But like, I feel like Clucky, in a way, even if he can't quite understand it, Clucky still sees Xanthi as someone who is just calls her the broken one, who's just damaged, but like tries to mean well. And I think Xanthi, in a way, kind of really does appreciate that from Clucky. And I would say, I feel like it's also weird to say that she would look up to Petrichor because, like, they are a literal child, but they also do kind of see and learn a lot of things from Petrichor as well, though. And I think part of that kind of heals her from her childhood.
Clucky, I wouldn't necessarily say he looks up to anyone really, because that's beyond his understanding, but he values his memories of his upbringing with the old farmer. So that's probably the closest he'll get to admiring something, is the old farmer.
Aww. My heart.
I couldn't ask this question because we're not in the same room. So I'm going to ask the question and we're just going to figure out who says what about whom. So what does your character admire and dislike the most about the player sitting next to your left?
All right, how do we want to do this?
I think I would like to do this about Clucky.
Okay.
Just because they have a really good relationship. And like Petrichor doesn't really say negative things about other people. But like I feel like it's too obvious if I do it for Xanthi. Admire most about Clucky would probably be I don't want to say undying loyalty, but that's what it is. Just like being willing to sacrifice himself in order for the rest of us to keep going on whatever we're doing. It's also the thing they dislike about him the most. Because that's one of the biggest things I found is a bit of a tension point between like how Petrichor does things and how Clucky does things. Is Clucky has no abandon, like all abandon for everything he does, and he goes in full force. And Petrichor is like, you have people here to help you. Let us help. So while they wholeheartedly appreciate that he's willing to give up so much for them and the rest of the party, they're also like, I can help you. Stop being a dumbass.
I feel like with Petrichor throughout this whole campaign with like everybody though, in a way, aside from Borrow.
No, even with Borrow. There's some things Borrow's done where Petrichor's like, why did you do that?
Let's see. What I appreciate the most, the character that I appreciate the most has to be Borrow. The fact that he's saddled with the leadership role, even though Clucky kind of asserts himself as a leader. He's had to be the guiding hand for a very destructive party. With Clucky constantly putting himself in danger for the sake of protecting the party, with Lovitar constantly putting himself in danger just for the sake of cool. With Xanthi constantly putting herself in danger because she's having psychotic breaks,
or is extremely drunk.
Right. Borrow has been the level head that this group needs.
Oh, absolutely. That is no questions asked.
I think it should also be said he is the guide of the party, but he's not necessarily the moral compass.
Right.
I find it funny that he's technically like the guide dog, but he's the one who's blind.
It's true.
Yeah, no, I appreciate the level-headedness that his character provides for us.
Yeah, and Victor hasn't like broken that hardly at all, except for like a few situations with Petrichor.
There's a two-part. What do you dislike the most about Borrow?
The fact that he's fucking blind.
You can't see that I'm this magnificent chicken.
Like, he can't see me in my true form. This is bullshit. No, that's a tough one for Borrow. What would I not like about Borrow? What would Clucky not like about Borrow? Shit, I honestly can't. Excuse me.
I know for
The
a fact
that
go ahead.
I was just saying, the fact that he thinks he's the leader.
Fair enough.
I would say Xanthi, what she would dislike about Borrow would probably be the fact that like she likes the fact that he is definitely wise and is like someone who kind of keeps the party set in line, but she's also like anytime Borrow kind of gives her advice, she's just kind of like, you're not my manager, like, and
you're not my dad.
Like, she spent her whole life being controlled by other people. Anytime Borrow tries to give her advice, she's like, shut up, old man. And like she doesn't like mean to be cruel in that way, but it's just more of like her stubbornness, I think, that like makes her really dislike that. But at the same time, it's him calling her out on a lot of stuff, and she dislikes that as well, even though it is very true.
So this one I think is interesting. Why is your character's lowest stat the lowest stat? For in-character reasons.
Oh,
Okay.
I'm gonna have to look this up. Hold on, I'll be right back.
I have my intelligence as my lowest stat for Clucky. He's a 9 in intelligence. I attribute that to the fact that he's only 3 years old. And that he's basically he's a farm chicken. I mean, his ability to learn things is going to be extremely limited. Because one, he doesn't live that long. Two, he wasn't always in this form. He started out as a literal chicken before this. So I mean, he hasn't been exposed to a lot of educational material. So that's my reasoning behind why his intelligence is so low. Even though for a 9, that's not fucking low that much. It should be even less.
Honestly enough, Petrichor's lowest stat is also intelligence.
Ooh.
Xanthi's is as well, actually.
Wow.
Yeah.
Everybody's intelligence dumping.
I was debating between if I was going to do my lowest stat, especially because of the nature of what Petrichor was made for, and especially now, having the dump stat be strength would make sense because they're a child. But I decided to go with intelligence because while they can retain knowledge very well and then spit it back out, like Petrichor has said some things that are very much like what Barrow says, where they're very wisdom based. They're very like moral based. But if you were to ask them just straight up facts, part of it was I wanted to base that kind of off of me, where yes, I'm good in school and I can say really good things. Like I give great relationship advice. I've never been in a relationship, but I give advice. I memorize things long enough to take a test, and after that, I can't tell you shit about what the subject was because I don't retain it if I don't deem it necessary.
I'd say Xanthi, the reason why her intelligence is so low is that she's lived in survival mode so much, and with her being in constant fight or flight, her processing sometimes is not the best, and I feel like she makes some very irrational decisions because of, like, due to her trauma, and I feel like just her, in the circumstances she's been through, has just been kind of a bit stunted as to how to look at certain situations, so that's probably why, her intelligence is pretty low because her brain chemistry is not okay.
What about brain chemistry?
You know, it's fucked up. Just a little bit.
What stereotypical role would your character play in a high school AU if they attended a normal high school?
Goth girl.
100%.
Like emo kid, goth girl. She's like in the corner. Drinking behind the school bleachers.
Oh God!
I think
Clucky would be a jock. He would be like in the judo club.
I think Petrichor would be a hippie.
Oh my God. No, but you're one of those hippies that would go to college because you're wanting to like better the world.
Like, I feel like Petrichor, out of any high school stereotypical cliche niche, it would be a hippie. Because they're not, again, intelligence is a dumb stat. They're not a nerd.
I feel Barrow would also be a hippie as well, though.
Mm-hmm.
But he would be like the older hippie that's like
went through the war and stuff where it's like, don't fight, man.
Yeah, like, peace not war, man. But like you're like the more like modern day kind of hippie where you're like, I'll walk out of the school and march in the streets. Like you're like the kind of hippie that would like set a dumpster on fire.
My God, Clucky
To get the point across.
as a sports jockey, but he's so dumb. Oh my God.
We all know Lovitar is like that like one kid that everybody avoids that like is very concerned when they when he brings a backpack to school.
Not Dr. Emo, he's just that dark kid that everyone's concerned about at all times.
He's definitely the one who's had like a few PTA like parent teacher conferences, like his dad's in prison.
Yeah.
He barks at himself in when he's alone.
The ultimate emo kid.
Oh yeah. Okay, what treasure, item, or artifact that your character has collected during the adventure means the most to them?
We haven't gotten any yet.
Yeah,
Matt?
man.
Okay,
Xanthi
treasure,
loves the cup that Petrichor
item,
made.
or artifact. We've gotten things, just not epic things.
Matt, where you at, bud?
Oh, like artifacts. Yeah, no, I have no idea. All I
Where
have is
you
my
at,
staff.
Matt?
I have my staff of Booyah.
For
Fireball!
For items, it's a tie between the necklace I was given in Dimension 2, the Winter Dimension, that has the Rune of Protection on it, and the bullet casing necklace that I was just given from Crow.
I will say the
Those
cup that Petrichor gave Xanthi is something she definitely treasures. She loves it.
Clucky's got his wood carving.
And your hats.
Your
Well,
hats?
that's
He does.
something Clucky makes. That's not something he's been given.
No, something collected.
I will say when you accidentally collected those eggs that you thought were berries were pretty fucking hilarious.
And they turned out to be good berries.
Yeah, those
Or
are
were
pretty
those
dope.
No, he thought he got
the
an
peppers.
apple. He thought he brought an apple home, and it ended up being an egg.
Yep. There was lots of weird shit in that dimension.
Good times. Gotta love being a hunter gatherer of the party.
Okay, this goes to where you can yell at Matt. Is there any particular weapon, item, etc. that your character longs to find?
Oh god.
All right, I've already yelled at him about this.
See, I'm not like super knowledgeable in like all the legendary weapons and stuff like that, so I would find it really hard to answer that question.
It doesn't even have to be something from like canon D&D content. Just like if
Homebrew,
Santa
baby.
gets something, what would be something she wishes she could get?
Like Xanthi already got her drugs.
That's true.
But I will say probably along the lines of the drugs, I would probably say she'd want something that would help her with her psychotic breaks. Like I don't know if there's anything like that.
You were given anxiety medication that you still
Yeah,
have.
and I stowed that shit away because I have alcohol. Not to mention, I plan on using that for like something else possibly.
Petrichor, it's hard. When Matt initially asked us, like, if we were to have any magic item from D&D content, what would it be? And I spent 3 days looking through stuff, and I'm like, if I'm honest, Petrichor doesn't want anything for themselves. Everything they do is for other people. So there's not really any like Clucky. They don't value material items. They just don't. That's not how they work. So there's nothing that I could think of then that like they would try to find. But if you were to ask me now, it would be pretty much the same, like a generic thing, something to help the party with whatever their issues are. Xanthi with her psychotic breaks, something to help mend Clucky and Lovitar's relationship, something to help us communicate with Clucky better without having to use magic.
Ring of telepathy. Ring of telepathy.
All we just hear is bark, 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 bark.
It's not that far off if we could get a collar like the ones from Up that let the dogs talk.
Oh my god, we could totally do that like in this dimension if you think about it.
It's not that far off, but like if they were to get things, it would be things that would help them help you guys.
I told Matt I want a belt of giant strength.
Makes sense.
Because
Lovitar.
Because fuck Lovitar's ability to fucking break out of my fucking grapple.
That's half of how you're choosing how like Clucky levels up.
Is how to keep Lovitar in check.
That Lovitar got away once.
Clucky doesn't like not grabbing things.
So I totally just thought of this. So Clucky's making hats and everything out of like animal skins. What if Clucky learned what a stuffed animal was at some point? And like you just give Petrichor like a stuffed squirrel.
Oh no. No, didn't I think Clucky has experienced or came across stuffed animals before?
I don't know. I'm
Didn't-
just saying, if you
Also, I
give
love the bear in the
Petrichor-
scarf.
if you give Petrichor a stuffed animal, that's gonna be the most cute shit ever.
Didn't
Like-
didn't weren't you given a stuffed animal in this dimension?
Mm-mm. You
Oh.
gave me the hat with barriers, but that was
Well,
it.
no, I'm not Clucky gave you, but didn't you get a stuffed animal in this dimension, or was it the ice dimension?
I did not get a stuffed animal ever. I got to play with action figures,
Mm,
but
I
they
mean,
have
that
not
could-
been stuffed animal.
that could be a step in the right direction. Well, you know, we're gonna have to get Clucky to encounter this action figure.
Mhm. So, Taylor, this is something that you had answered something similar to on TikTok for Xanthi, which on TikTok it was, what is your character's favorite smell? This question is, what is your character's smell? Like, what do they smell like?
Oh. Oh god, Clucky.
Lucky is a mix of things, because he hasn't taken a bath.
Clucky or Xanthi probably smells of whiskey and like probably like whiskey and like, or probably burnt whiskey might be the smell of Xanthi, because she's constantly setting shit on fire and she's constantly drinking. One way I kind of would like to think about it would almost be like kind of like how Bakugo from My Hero Academia smells, because apparently he sweats nitroglycerin and that sort of thing, and as it burns, it gives off a sweet scent. I would kind of say like she has maybe like a whiskey, like a sweet whiskey kind of burnt whiskey smell to her.
I would also add like the smell of smoke on your clothes after you've been next to a campfire for a while.
Clucky is a amalgamation of many smells. All
Of
right?
everything he's collected in the journey thus far.
I'm
Because
imagining Clucky probably smells like my fiance's ghillie suit when he came back from Afghanistan. Like,
Like,
No, for one, he smells of fish.
oh
he-
yes.
He's been inside of a fish. He's been burnt many times. He's been wet many times. So there. I mean, granted,
So
birds are typically pretty good about self-cleaning, but
Mhm.
even still, that's still gonna be a hard fucking scent to get out of feathers, no less.
Oh, is there
Uh,
going to be a Clucky
there's-
bath like session?
there's
Like
a-
you have to force Clucky to get in the bath?
So he smells of fish. He smells of cooking chicken. He smells of, I would imagine, something similar to a wet dog.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I don't know if you've smelled chicken feces before, but
I've
that's not
smelled.
pleasant
I've
either.
smelled chicken coops. Yeah.
Sir, please. I live in the country. We
That's
live-
not very fucking pleasant.
I
So-
lived in a house that used to keep exotic birds, and you, no matter how deep you clean that place, you cannot get the
It's
smell out.
gross.
Yeah, no. Clucky's not a very
got
pleasant
everything.
smell.
Petrichor totally has that new baby smell.
I think that, but also Petrichor smells reminiscent of like ocean mist and like a pine forest right after it's rained.
Petrichor,
Yeah.
Okay.
which is
okay.
again Xanthi's favorite scent, which is still mind blowing to me.
Earthy smells, but also like that kind of sharp saltiness from like the ocean.
Like standing next to a waterfall or like a tide pool.
Just any kind of
Don't go
like,
chase-
fast moving water that like you get a spray and that kind of salty almost smell from it.
Ugh, can we get past this river already? I want to play so bad.
Lovitar, I know, would just smell like death. I feel like he would also smell like embalming fluids.
Yeah.
I feel like he would smell strongly of a morgue. Borrow, I feel would smell like cedar wood.
Lovitar would not smell like embalming fluid. He would smell like tanned leather.
Yeah,
Yeah, you're right.
that makes some sense.
100% tanned leather.
And Borrow to me just smells like sandalwood and like a candle, like a wooden candle wick. I feel like he would have a very warm, inviting smell.
You know, I am really surprised he didn't lean more into the drunken fist aspect.
We already had an
Uh,
alcoholic in the party.
Well, he
Uh,
actually explained it a little bit because he took Drunken Fist, but then found he wasn't ever using any of the qualities of it.
Yeah. Yeah, I know.
Ooh.
Otherwise, I would say he would smell like a raging alcoholic as well.
I feel like he smells like mahogany almost.
Yes.
Like a book, like an old library, that kind of book scent. I feel like that's kind of
Yes.
No.
He
No.
would totally smell like an old
No.
book.
that's
No.
what I think he would. Victor's
No.
not here. It
Or
would
he
be
might
good-
smell
No.
like a Goodwill.
Nope.
Oh.
Nope.
What do you
Frankincense. Frankincense.
think? Okay.
Frankincense and
Julie.
and citrus.
Ooh,
Ooh, I like the citrus.
that's not bad. I don't.
I
hate
feel
that.
Crow would smell of sweat, like teenage locker room mixed with gunpowder.
With gunpowder specifically.
Yes.
I mean, I know from experience how fucking disgusting we can get out in the field. So yeah,
Huh.
especially when there's no running water.
I've heard stories. 30 days without showering, I'd lose my fucking shit, man. And you're walking up mountains in the middle of fucking desert? Yeah, no thank you.
Hooah.
This is an interesting one because I have multiple answers for this question. What aspect about your character's future are they most curious about?
Oh, fuck. Xanthi doesn't really think she has a future, which is kind of fucked. Like, she kind of puts herself on missions that either would, like, kind of off her. And, like, again, she doesn't really, in a way, she doesn't exactly seek revenge, but I feel like she might want to, if she were to ever go back to that dimension, she would want to try and end what, if anyone's left out there, she might try to find a resolve with her father. But
First off, what dimension?
the dimension we all came from.
Exactly.
Oh,
What dimension?
The first dimension.
Dimension 1.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I don't know if Xanthi, like, I think now, though, like, currently in the state of that things are, I feel like she would want to get out of, like, get back home, but then maybe try and, like, start a life with the people that she cares about, trying to live for these people that she's grown close to instead of trying to isolate herself because she's lived in isolation for so long. I feel like she, upon experiencing this, is finally wanting to have a connection, even if it risks a lot of things on top of that. But
A future for Clucky is beyond his understanding, but me personally, Godhood.
yes, Clucky will achieve godhood. That is no question. Clucky is going to achieve godhood.
I think
Clucky does not have those aspirations, but I do.
the interesting thing is,
We all do.
due to events that have happened, there's also a possibility that, especially in where we are, that Petrichor could be viewed as a god.
It's very
with the
possible.
children of the glow and some of like the magic they can do and stuff. Like I've thought about, like, because we have to cross this fucking river before we can even get to the nuke, and so I've thought about, like, how would I do that? And I remember some of the spells I have. I'm like, this is gonna be a fucking Jesus walking on water moment.
Technically, Xanthi and Petrichor could definitely be considered gods, because like Xanthi could just set shit on fire out of nowhere, like, and Petrichor can like show light and shit, like magic to people in this dimension. It would be like the Jesus miracles.
Wait till they get their eyes full of Clucky just bench pressing this fucking nuke.
But I think some of the things
Lightweight! Lightweight!
I think some of the things that Petrichor is most curious about for their future is, one, they've made a family here with you guys, but they also want to get back to the doctor. So there's an internal conflict going on at all times. Like, when all of this is done and over, who am I going with? What's going to happen?
Yeah, that's another thing you don't really think about.
When we meet the doctor, are they going to recognize me? Are they going to even know like who I am or what I am?
Is the doctor still going to be the same as when you met them?
Yeah. Is what I am now going to affect if I'm still useful to them or not? One of the biggest things is in relation to the patron that they have as a cleric. Like, what is that about? They are curious about learning more about this deity and why this specific deity was the one they chose, and they don't worship the Raven Queen. So how does that dynamic work as a cleric where stereotypically they worship something? Because that's something they learned in Mission 1, is that like the clerics and the shamans, they worshipped these beings which gave them the power they have. Which is
I didn't think about that, like especially like Petrichor's conflict with religion and understanding religion from a human perspective.
Because they don't worship the Raven Queen. They just were imbued with the magic of the Raven Queen. So how does that work with them being a cleric?
I also feel like a lot of the choices that was kind of forced on Petrichor is definitely going to come full circle as to the choices of what they're going to make in the future.
And there's more, so many more that I can't bring up because it'll spoil things in game that are going to happen at some point in time. So I can't talk about them, but there's more that will be revealed in time.
Yeah. I think that, yeah. Clucky is a god. That's all I want. I want to establish Clucky as a god. And we're going to do it with this dimension. Just fucking bench press this nuke and get radioactive. Become a radioactive Godzilla chicken. Good to go.
For some reason, I now also like us being in like a technological time, I'm now imagining like the robot chicken from Robot Chicken, like cyborg chicken Clucky.
Dude, honestly, when we got to this dimension, I genuinely thought Clucky was about to be abducted, like 100%, get separated from the group and abducted by the government. I fully expected it to happen. I mean, it very well could still happen.
Xanthi would not let that happen because, like, one, Xanthi was already skeptical to begin with upon entering this dimension because they were locked in a room and then a concrete room, questioned, handcuffed. There's very similar, like, parallels she saw in the labs were very much seen here. And knowing that Clucky is very much an unknown variable on any situation, even in the fantasy or in the real world, Xanthi, one, she's just like, these guys are going to experiment on us. Two, Clucky, like Xanthi would blow that place up before anyone. Xanthi ain't scared to go back to prison.
Clearly, that didn't happen in time for Petrichor.
Oof.
Yeah,
God, that whole scene fucking broke me, man. Fucking broke me.
I can't wait to get past this dimension, man. I'm ready for it.
I already know the answer to this question, but I'm going to ask it anyways. Who in the party would your character prioritizing in dire circumstances?
Could you repeat that question, please?
Who in the party would your character prioritize rescuing in dire circumstances?
Petrichor.
I know.
The child.
I mean, being that Petrichor being the smallest and the most vulnerable at this time, Clucky would probably prioritize putting himself in between danger and Petrichor.
No one's touching the baby.
Yeah.
Now, for me, for Petrichor, man, who would they prioritize?
I feel Borrow is just like a go-to for that because, like, Borrow.
Borrow is the obvious answer. But if I'm honest, with how Petrichor processes things and has processed things, it would probably be Clucky.
I could see that.
He typically is the first one into danger, normally. So I would see that, yeah.
But I also feel like Clucky is definitely like a more innocent component in this party compared to everyone else aside from Petrichor. And
the biggest reason is because while Barrow is the like main unit for Petrichor, Barrow understands that if something goes wrong, he is not the most important person in the group. Like, yes, he's useful and good for certain things, but because of certain things that he has, such as being blind, he understands if other party members are prioritized over him, which is why he's second on the list, but priority would be Clucky.
aww.
I like it. I like it.
That's adorable.
Good old Cluckers. Clucksters. Clucky McCluckerson.
Okay, what colors are associated with your character?
White and red, baby!
With Xanthi, it would be dark blues and purples, but also red as well because she has a red stone that she keeps around her neck. It's her arcane focus, but it's also something it's the only thing she has left of her mother. So red also kind of embodies the rage, but I feel like the blue and purples are more kind of how she is as an individual.
You want to know Clucky's favorite color, though?
What?
Lavender.
Oh, that is so gay, and it is so cute. I love that. Technically, lavender is like a main color for the LGBTQ community, which is really funny. But
It's hilarious. My artist brain has different answers than my character-oriented brain. Obviously, that kind of light, soft blue-green color is often what I attribute to Petrichor. But like for you guys, my answers are not the same as your guys' answers. For Tarzan, yes, they're the same, but that's because he's a fucking chicken. But like from an artist point of view, color schemes are a huge part of like character designs and everything. So for Xanthi in particular, mine would be dark purple reds, like a purpley maroon color, and earthy tones.
I could definitely see that. She also is like very much for black leather.
Yeah. Lovitar, I attribute with dark purples and red only because of Loviatar, but I attribute him with more like dark purples and blacks.
I like very much bruising kind of colors. I feel like is something that definitely represents Lovitar, the colors of bearing pain and agony.
Mm-hmm.
Barrow is like
edgy.
I say Barrow would be like yellow or like a khaki brown.
I attribute Barrow with like a deep grass green. Those just like gentle green.
Yes.
That's what I attribute to Barrow.
Like a green field or like a peaceful forest.
So
For some reason, I could also see like bright shades of yellow in there, like almost kind of like a pretty flower garden in a way, like or a Zen garden might be another way to put it.
So the reason why I say lavender is Plucky's favorite color is because of the farm that he grew up on. The farmer was a former barbarian adventurer back in his youth, and he grew lavender on his farm to help keep him calm, essentially, because the smell is very soothing and whatnot. It was a form of therapy for him to help grow and maintain lavender on the farm.
Chicken aromatherapy. That is adorable.
Well, not for Clucky. That was for the farmer. It was therapeutic.
That's still so cute.
So he would grow it to help keep himself calm, and that's the smell that Clucky grew up with was lavender and the purple flowers. So that's why it's his favorite color.
Awesome, but I also read a question that I think is hilarious considering the relationship dynamic that this party has due to it being like a family unit, essentially.
Oh no.
If one of the party members admits that they are passionately in love with your character, how would they respond? Which is absolutely would never happen considering this party.
Yeah, Clucky would be concerned. No, Clucky wouldn't be concerned. He wouldn't even understand what you're saying.
It's true.
I would be concerned. Like, what the fuck do you mean?
I feel like Petrichor wouldn't take it in a way as like a romantic sense, but more of a like platonic family sense.
Yeah.
Even if it was a romantic sense, just because of how they are, they don't. That's never been a thing for them. So it's like, cool.
Xanthi, she would probably straight be like, did you just get a lobotomy? Or she would, because like Xanthi is just so emotionally unavailable, it's not even funny. She'd probably.
I'm calling it right now. I'm calling it right now. It's Crow and Xanthi are gonna happen. Calling it right now. If Lovitar would have stayed at the party, it would have been Xanthi and Lovitar 100%. But it's not looking like Lovitar's sticking around, so it's definitely going to be Crow and Lovitar and Xanthi.
Oh, Jesus Christ! Yeah, Xanthi would straight up be like, "Are you fucking out of your fucking mind?"
Oh, but I can see it. I can see it because already, just with the interactions we've had, they already have a lot in common.
Who, Xanthi and Lovitar, or Xanthi and Crow?
Xanthi and Crow.
In a way, he smacked him across the face.
You guys get along you guys are getting along pretty well there, Xanthi.
Xanthi, again, is Jesus Christ. I have explained this before. Xanthi is trying to turn over a new leaf and trying to set a good example for the baby. That's why she's apologizing.
I love it. It's happening. We're shipping Crow and Xanthi 100%.
What is it?
Full send.
What is it?
All aboard! All aboard! Woo! Woo!
Isaac never sees this, but also I hope he sees this.
Oh my god. Isaac, if you see this, unless you want Crow to get his ass kicked, no.
It's happening. I'm somehow going to somehow facilitate this with Clucky.
If Xanthi were to ever get into a relationship with anybody, she'd be that kind of girlfriend that would bite people to show affection.
I feel like the relationship dynamic, if it were to ever to happen, would be similar to, more aggressive than, but similar to Holbreck and Foe. Holbreck is not interested, but Foe is like,
I like it.
I will say Xanthi and Lovitar would have definitely been a no-go. Those two fucking hate each other.
No, they argue too much.
They have like a weird mutual respect for one another, but no, they absolutely hate. They would kill each other. It would.
All it takes is one life-saving moment. All it takes.
Xanthi already, like, literally, like, as Lovitar is down, took a health potion and shoved it down his throat.
Okay, this is an interesting question.
Drink it, you bastard.
What decision would the party have to make in order for your character to consider splitting off from the group?
So I mean, it's already been established with the letter for Clucky. All you have to do is just tell him that you no longer need his services and he'll fuck off, essentially. Or you no longer need his protection, and all you have to do is just put the letter in his collar again. But I think if this party did do that, I think Clucky would probably be a little distraught or upset about it, but he would do what his metaphorical father taught him and go out and see other, or go out and help other people. But yeah, that's how he would split away from the group, is being told he's no longer needed.
Xanthi has already tried to split away from the group, and I think the main reason she would do that would be the same reason that she tried to, was because she is just scared that she's too absolutely broken to be around people that she will end up hurting.
What would Petrichor consider leaving?
They become an orphan.
Um,
I'm sorry, that was dark.
I think. Oh boy. The only scenario I can think of, well, there's a few, but all of them kind of are stemmed from the same thing. One would be, we've already dealt with inter-party argumentation and that
Quite a
tension,
bit.
but if it got to the point where the parties started legitimately fighting each other and Petrichor was made to pick sides, they wouldn't. They can't. It's not something they would do. On same lines, if they were fighting something and like the big bad, whatever they were fighting, like takes one of the party members hostage, and the only way that they'll live is if Petrichor leaves the group or something like that. Like something extreme like that. It would take a lot to make Petrichor consider leaving the group.
Yeah.
Aw. Well, we are going to do our best to not let that happen, especially to the child in the apocalypse.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Or I was gonna get his vision back, and that's how he's gonna leave the group. Like, why am I with these people? Like,
All of you are ugly AF. Bye.
you are all horrible people.
Leave.
Oh man. Well, on the note of leaving, I think this would be a good time to wrap up. So it's what we're almost 3 hours in. We put in a good amount of discussion in today. I showed up a little like an hour late, but
It's
I
okay.
didn't know
We
you got-
forgive you.
didn't know you guys were kicking off earlier than 6:30. That's that caught me by surprise.
It was 6:30, sir. It was
No,
6:30.
I was in the door at 6:20. You guys were already an hour in. I'm like, oh shit. Okay.
That's because you're in Victor's time now. You're not in mine.
Yeah.
Change.
Whoopsie. Yes, it does. But yeah, no. To those that tuned in today, we appreciate you greatly. It was these Q&As are phenomenal. Would love some more input if you guys have any. We do have that Twitter page that you can submit questions to for any other future Q&As. Tune in next week for the Dimensional Dial. We should be back on track. Fingers
Hopefully.
crossed. You guys, Taylor, KJ, you guys are amazing.
As are you, Tarzan.
Let's hope for a smooth recovery for this week, and we can get back on track and get some more trauma going. You know,
Trust us, we are all itching for adventure. It's just
look at this beard. Look at this beard. There's no stress plucking. No stress plucking whatsoever. This is
There's about
Matt.
to be. There's
Matt,
about
where you at, dog?
There's about to be. I'm sure.
we need trauma.
Again, thank you all for tuning in tonight. Have a great rest of your night. Rest up, drink water, and we will see you on To Be Diced. Take care.
Bye.
How do we
I don't know.
on live? I think we just need to just leave studio. Leave studio. Abort.
Abort mission. Bye.
It's not working. Oh no, it's not working.